The sound that stayed with me wasn't the splash of water. It was the silence that followed it. A heavy, stunned silence that pressed down on my chest as cold water dripped from my hair onto my dress, sliding down my arms and pooling at my feet. My sister's glass lay empty on the table. Her hand didn't shake. Her face didn't show anger. That was the part that scared me the most. 5 minutes, she said clearly, as if she were announcing dessert. Get your things and get out of Mom's house. Forever. Every face at the dinner table froze. Forks hovered in the air. My aunt's mouth was slightly open. My uncle avoided looking at me entirely. And my mother, my fragile, recovering mother, sat staring at the tablecloth, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. In that moment, I realized this humiliation wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotion spilling over. It was calculated, planned, rehearsed. My name is Claire, and I was 29 years old when my sister decided to erase me from my own family. 6 months earlier, my mother had suffered a severe stroke. One minute, she was independent, stubborn, loud in the way only mothers can be. The next, she was lying in a hospital bed, struggling to form words, unable to lift her right arm, terrified by her own confusion. When the doctors explained the long recovery ahead, everyone nodded, offered sympathy, and then slowly returned to their lives. Everyone except me. I left my apartment. I paused my career. I moved into my mother's guest room and turned my life into a routine of medications, appointments, exercises, and patience. I learned how to crush pills and mix them with food so she wouldn't choke. I learned which days were good days and which days she wouldn't recognize the house she'd lived in for 20 years. I learned how to celebrate tiny victories, holding a spoon, writing the first shaky letter of her name, as if they were miracles. My sister Natalie lived 3 states away. She had a high-paying job, a busy social life, and a talent for sounding concerned without ever being present. She sent flowers, she called on Sundays, she told people how hard this must be for all of us, and everyone believed her. I wasn't the successful one. I wasn't the favorite, but I was the one who stayed. Staying meant sacrifice, but it also meant something else. It meant I saw everything: the mail, the bills, the insurance letters, the legal documents that arrived after the stroke, the conversations doctors thought no one else was listening to. I was there when my mother was lucid enough to ask hard questions and afraid enough to need honest answers. The night of the dinner, Natalie flew in unexpectedly. She said she wanted to check on things. She brought expensive takeout from Mom's favorite restaurant, insisted on using the good plates, and invited relatives who hadn't visited more than once since the stroke. She even told me to dress nicely. That should have been my warning, but I was too tired to question it. Halfway through the meal, Natalie set down her fork and smiled politely. "We need to talk about Mom's future," she said. My mother looked up, confusion flickering across her face. "My future?" Natalie gestured around the room. "This house isn't safe. The care situation isn't sustainable. Claire is exhausted, and Mom deserves better than that." My stomach dropped. "Her doctor says she's improving," I said. "She's doing well here." Natalie shook her head slowly. "I've already found a professional facility. They specialize in stroke recovery." My fork slipped from my hand. "You made this decision without us?" "Without you," she corrected. "This is what's best." I turned to my mother. "Mom, you didn't agree to this, did you?" She stared at her plate. Silence stretched across the table. Natalie leaned in gently. "We talked about this yesterday, remember?" That was a lie. I knew it, and my mother knew it too, but fear has a way of quieting people who already feel powerless. When I protested, when my voice grew louder and my hands started to shake, Natalie stood up, lifted her glass, and poured the water over my head. Not through, poured, slowly, deliberately. "You're embarrassing yourself," she said calmly. I looked at my mother, desperate for her to say something, anything. Finally, barely audible, she whispered, 5 minutes. I packed in a fog. I don't remember what I took. I don't remember walking out. I only remember standing on the porch afterwards, shaking, realizing I had just been expelled from the life I had put on hold for someone else. The next day, the locks were changed. Natalie told the neighbors it was for security. A new family group chat appeared, one I wasn't included in, filled with cheerful messages about care plans and transitions. I was erased with efficiency. 3 days later, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my mother's medications, just as I had every week. Natalie appeared beside me at the counter. My sister is no longer authorized. She's been removed from caregiving duties due to emotional instability. People stared. Someone whispered. The pharmacist awkwardly pulled the medication back. I stood there, burning with shame, realizing Natalie was rewriting the story while I was still living inside it. That's when I learned she'd added herself to Mom's bank accounts. When I tried calling, Natalie answered instead. She's too upset to talk right now. But Natalie didn't know everything. She didn't know that after the stroke, during one of Mom's clearest periods, we had updated her documents together: medical power of attorney, healthcare directives, a revised will. She didn't know my mother had looked me in the eye and said, "Promise me you won't let anyone control my life." She didn't know about the folder I kept safe in my apartment. The call from the doctor came a week later. He was concerned. Someone had changed Mom's medication without consultation, switching to a cheaper alternative that could interfere with her recovery. Natalie had done it. Then a neighbor texted me photos of moving trucks in the driveway. A realtor sign went up. Natalie wasn't just moving Mom, she was dismantling her life. The breaking point came when my mother tried to leave the facility alone. She was found wandering near the road, crying, asking for me. I arrived with the doctor and the documents. Natalie was in the room with a realtor, discussing property value as if my mother were invisible. "You're not allowed here," Natalie snapped. "Yes," I said quietly, placing the papers on the table. The room changed instantly. The doctor confirmed the signatures. Natalie's confidence collapsed. The realtor left without a word. I knelt beside my mother. "Do you want to come home?" She looked at Natalie, then at me, her eyes suddenly clear. "I remember. All of it." That was the end of Natalie's control. Everything had to be reversed: the facility placement, the accounts, the sale. My mother came home that night. As I helped her into bed, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for protecting me." And I learned something I'll never forget. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Sometimes it means you're watching while others are too busy performing. And sometimes the one who stays sees the truth long before anyone else does.